What prompted the ANC Stalwarts and Veterans' recent National Consultative Conference? Are Stalwarts and Veterans happy with the ANC's leadership of the country? Why should the Integrity Commission be made an independent constitutional structure within the ANC? And what are the Stalwarts' position on 7 ANC members having raised their hands for the highest office? What time is it? It's question time. Khotsong Gurula, and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. Stalwarts and Veterans of the ANC held their National Consultative Conference last weekend. The long-awaited gathering sought to share ideas about current challenges facing the country and the governing party. As part of its official statement released yesterday by the Stalwarts, the Stalwarts say, quote, "We are deeply troubled by the abandonment of the ANC's historic values and principles, which has undermined popular confidence in government, parliament, state-owned entities and other public institutions. This is an unprecedented political crisis," close quote. They also say the social distance between elected representatives and the people, as well as a decline of support during elections, are a threat to the party. While other alliance partners attended, the ANC declined to be part of this gathering. That is, for his part, SG Gwede Mantashe had already warned those intending to attend that they would be doing so in their individual capacity. But will the upcoming national conference unite or deepen divisions within the ANC? We are live. If you can call us in AOViews, 089-110-4210 is the number to dial. Our Twitter handle at question time 24. My guest today, a veteran of the African National Congress, Cheryl Carolus. But before we get into the show, let's take a look at this clip.
Indeed, I think what ought to come out of here is something that we say to these 50 million South Africans plus, that there is a body of people in our country, important people, in whose hands resides the gift of hope. So that we indeed say to the people, the age of hopelessness is over.
Well, like I said, I've got a stalwart in the house, and really appreciate you making time. Jessie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mpho.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. You've seen this organization go through various phases. The mass democratic movement era, where indeed activism took over. But you've also seen the ANC in government from the time of Madiba through TM, JZ now. You're not impressed, and you have said so.
No, I'm not. In fact, I'm deeply saddened, Mpho, and on a good day, I'm just plain hopping mad, because I think our people deserve better. I am very disturbed, as indeed all of us in the Stalwarts and Veterans group. We are loyal and disciplined ANC members. We cannot ever see ourselves entrusting that treasured thing called the vote to any other party. We don't think anybody there is up to the task. And our organization is failing our people so deeply. So we are deeply, deeply disturbed and very, very committed to try and pull our organization back to the one that our people deserve, especially if we look at the challenges that face our country and the opportunities which we're losing every day. Opportunities that could translate into jobs, through economic growth, through the confidence that the international world would have had in us, we would argue very strongly, except for this never-ending saga. We see in Parliament now unfolding. So we are deeply, deeply upset.
Now, when the ANC officially, and I'm talking about the office bearers and perhaps the NEC, said, well, those who are meeting are doing so in their own individual capacities. They are just concerned members of the ANC who are meeting to brainstorm ideas, and perhaps they'll come as individuals to conference and contribute through commissions. How did it make you feel?
Well, we felt very good about that conference, Mpho, because, we had a gathering of a significant number of proper stalwarts of our movement, people who are still properly committed to making our organization return itself and redeem itself in the eyes of our people. When we looked at the gathering in that room, the quality of the conversations, and I think we've seen letters to the newspapers of people who had participated in there.
Yeah.
And so we are also very disappointed that the leadership of the ANC chose not to attend. It was the only partner of the alliance who didn't attend.
Yeah.
We had tried for close on to 2 years to, in fact, get the leadership of the ANC to become part of this process of introspection and correcting, self-correcting.
They say you want to rule from the graves.
Most people in that room, Mpho, were actually people like myself who, in fact, left voluntarily. I think all of us are playing significant roles in other parts of public life. I've served on a number of public institutions at the behest of government, in state-owned entities, in others like sand parks, because I believe in my country and I believe in democratically elected people who get the mandates from our people, and if they ask me to do a peace job, I do it. And so have many of the veterans and stalwarts who were there. In fact, you look at Murphy Marobe, he was the first chair of the Finance and Fiscal Commission, never ran for public office. I've never stood for Parliament, because I don't actually think I'll be a good MP. I think it's an important job, and which is why I think my organization must make sure that the right people are there and that they're properly accountable. So we are actually properly patriotic people who have served and will continue to serve if we need to in any public institution except Parliament.
Where do you locate the problems that the ANC is facing?
Firmly with the leadership, Mpho. A fish rots from the head. And if we look at the kind of stuff that's in our newspapers every day, there's small inanna things from the branch members here in the branch. But the most shocking things is when people holding the highest office, starting from our president, is actually standing accused, have been found wanting, by many courts, from the most junior courts right up to the highest, most sacred court of ours, the Constitutional Court. When that court says to a leader of ours, to the president of this country, number one citizen, you have erred and you have violated this Constitution, and nothing happens to you, we should be deeply concerned.
And you're in Durban, welcome.
Hi. Actually, the lady there has just about answered most of the things I was going to ask.
Oh, okay.
I can never understand the ANC that years ago, Mr. Zuma he spent 27 million on his own complex. I can't call it a house. He was guilty in the spy tapes, and yet they still elected him president. And if ever he does anything wrong, they say it's the collective. And they never do anything about it. I would imagine that most people in this country think that the ANC have had it. The collective, what have they done about it all? Nothing. They'd let it go on and on and on, and he's taken money left, right and centre. And what have they done? Now.
Okay. And thanks,
really.
Thanks very much, and thank you indeed for that call. You calling for organizational renewal? I mean, this is common in each and every conference of the ANC. There is a commission on organizational renewal. So what is so different this time?
Mpho, we think that it's time for the ANC to take honest stock. we've taken stock of ourselves as members of the organization and indeed as Stalwarts and Veterans. And we've said this has gone wrong on our watch. And I used the analogy a while back of this toad in the frog, the toad in the pot. You know, you put a frog in a pot and you start a small flame underneath it. And the tolerance levels just, you know, to cope with this heat, it just extends until it's way too late and you are boiling because that pot has now reached boiling point and it's a cauldron. And that's why the Stalwarts and Veterans are not about to walk away from the ANC. We will not walk away from it. We are saying we have to take responsibility for where it's landed. Okay. The challenge we have is that the leadership doesn't think so. They don't think the fact that we lost significant support in the elections in last year in August. And I want to just say, in part response to Anne, although she didn't ask a question, you know, she stated things, but most people in this country still voted for the ANC. Does that make us feel comfortable? In fact, we think the leadership of the ANC made a big mistake by becoming triumphalist about it. It's actually a hollow victory. But the fact of the matter is, most people did not vote for the opposition. A large number of our constituents stayed away. And that message says people still feel they cannot put their cross, that confidence of that sacrosanct vote next to another party. They still believe, but they cannot do it to this ANC. And that's why we lost. And I think rightly so, we deserved to in fact lose the confidence of our people, but our people haven't gone anywhere. We are with our people. We're also not walking away from the ANC. We think we have to correct it.
Wise men, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mpo, and good afternoon to Mama Apo.
Yes.
You know, Mpo, first let me say, as South Africans, we appreciate the good work that was done by ANC veterans. A big contribution in fighting for democracy of this country. But boy, what they're trying to do, pulling back the ANC to where it was. You see, the Bible says, devil used to be the one of the angel of God. If you try to pull the ANC back to where it was, it's like trying to make a devil to be the angel again. That is impossible. Okay. The ANC is finished, man. And we appreciate the good work that was done by Abo Tata Mandela, Abo Walter Sisulu, Abo Uwara Tambo. But the fact is the ANC is finished. It will never pull back. It's finished. It's like calling for it to pull back. It's like calling for the devil to be the angel again. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wise. Well, I'm sure you.
But Wiseman, I want to ask you to restore your faith. You know, we say that we know many people have really been so disillusioned with the leadership, the current leadership of the ANC, not with the principles that the ANC stands for. Because Wiseman is right that, you know, it was with the support of our people that the leadership of the ANC over the years have had a resounding mandate to, in fact, effect the changes and that journey. But I want to say to Wiseman, you know what? Change and freedom is not an event. The 27th of April in 1994 was necessary, but not in and of itself sufficient or the end. We have work to do, Wiseman, and maybe that's what we're going to have to realize, and what all our comrades of the proper veterans who are much older than I am, what everyone is realizing, we can't be tired. You know, this is still a long walk to freedom, and we should all wake up and reclaim our country.
Let's go for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue this discussion. And please do give us a call, 089-110-4210. What do you think of the initiatives by the veterans and the stalwarts of the ANC? This is question time.
Let's go, Eugene. You got this, man. Let's go, buddy. You're safe. Let's go now. Sure.
2 weeks earlier.
What do you guys do?
We do IT.
IT?
Yeah.
That's great.
Share a castle, make some new friends.
Welcome back. We're still watching Question Time, and my guest today is Cheryl Carolus. She's an ANC veteran. Now, let's look at some of the proposals that you've made. You're saying let's change as a country, change the electoral system. You would rather have the president and the DP directly elected. So some of the things that the opposition is calling for.
Mpo, I think that workshop of ours this weekend, the National Consultative Conference, looked back on how far we've come since '94. We're very proud of it, and I think that's the other thing we say to people. Don't you ever say that things are worse than under apartheid. Because anybody who says that wasn't there. You know, the things we can say even about the president today, they would have locked you up a long time, so it's just nonsense. So we are proud of these achievements that we have. But you know what? We should actually look at whether the systems we have are still relevant, are still applicable, the best things. I think the electoral system was very relevant at the time, but it's time to modernize it. And so our discussions was not just a reaction. We also looked at what are the things, obviously, that allowed this lack of accountability to creep in. But we're not saying that the electoral system, as it was in '94, was a mistake. No. We think the whole proportional representation system was appropriate. Our parliament would not have been as non-racial as what it is. It certainly wouldn't have the kind of demographic if it wasn't. I mean, I won't go into detail now, but it did enable us as an organization, the ANC, to put up a really non-racial slate of people and a non-sexist slate and people with disabilities, and to choose that. We do think that after all these years, surely we must revisit our systems. And so our entire discussion was in fact saying to the ANC, part of its problem is that our discussions at our conferences become so short-termist. There's no visionary thing of looking, what will we need for the next 20 years in our country? And so the proposal around the electoral systems came in part because we looked at the total lack of accountability and the total lack of democracy, and quite frankly, the way in which the system has been abused. The fact that there's intimidation and corruption of delegates now, where the votes of branches are completely distorted. So an individual member's vote at the branch level can be completely sold for a few pieces of silver by the highest bidder at the conference. So we're saying every paid up member in this organization should be able to elect directly at least the top officials, the officials of the movement.
You're talking about the president of the party?
Yes.
Okay, that
to start with the ANC.
Okay.
And then we're also looking at the electoral system for the country as a whole. So we are looking at the entire pipeline and saying we need to revisit it. And these are matters that we want to put on the agenda for the conference. A number of these points have in fact come up at the National Policy Conference. Do you think there's any discussion, even by the existing 8 candidates? Not one of them are in fact highlighting the important policy decisions, such as the ones around the Integrity Commission. No, everybody who's campaigning around the place are campaigning around a person and their jacket. We don't hear much about policy. We certainly don't see the continuity from the policy conference. So what the National Consultative Conference did was in fact to lift out those things, because this conference can't just be about electing one person who then has the right to determine a whole slate of people around them. We think it can't be right. We don't think that is serving our members who take the trouble to be members and to defend our movement. They should have more of a say in this process.
Yeah, but you see, I don't understand. Why don't you blame the ANC then for all this lack of accountability? Because it is the NEC that sits at Irene for a weekend and then come up with all this supposedly, or what some may call appalling decisions. Whether they vote on every decision, well, I guess they would know better. So why don't you put this blame right at the nerve?
No, but we have. You will see in the declaration from the National Consultative Conference that we lay the blame squarely at the feet of the leadership. I must say also, there were a number of ministers and indeed NEC members who very openly came to the conference, gave interviews at the conference. So it's not a unanimous view in there either, that in fact more and more people, in the beginning people were they felt we would harm our movement by speaking out in public. And indeed, we were criticized for that. Well, we also think that is not a correct view. That in fact, the movement is not about the few people who do wrong. The movement is about those ordinary Gogos, men and women, who vote the ANC into power. And so we are saying that we have to speak out to the public. The ANC has just over 1 million members. Well, over 10 million people voted the ANC into power. So there's another 9 million people out there who deserve to know where we stand on these matters and who are deeply unhappy, who chose not to go and vote in the election last year.
Just hold it there. Jaman.
Hi, Rimpo.
Yeah, school running, Saya.
Blessed, my brother. Yeah. Jaman from the Valeria. Comrade Carolus, Cheryl.
Yes,
I once met you sometime back in '95 at the Garden Court Hotel. You were so humble. Oh. One couldn't believe that you were in the top threat of the ANC. And please go to every municipality. Have an audit. Check how many well-deserving comrades who were honorable, who did a wonderful job, were hounded out of their jobs because they did not want to eat, in quotes. And they did not want to become rich. Go and check throughout the Free State. I'm talking from experience. I worked in a municipality under the ANC government as a card-carrying member for 10 full years. But because we are upholding those very principles the veterans are fighting for, we were hounded out of the municipality with trumped-up charges, and they still owe millions to all the officials, decent, honorable, and honest officials who were hounded out of the municipalities. Please go and have an audit. Ask how much they've spent on court cases that they've lost. Then you'll see what happened in all the municipalities.
Yeah, man. Give thanks, brother, man.
Aye.
Yeah, man. Now, what he's saying, indeed, you hear this across the country. And the ANC has even become a dangerous organization.
Yes.
People are dying in KZN. Today, yesterday, young Youth League members being killed under very mysterious circumstances.
No, and it's so blatant. That is true, Paul. This is why we're saying that the time for us to act and to rise up is now. This notion that people harbor that if we speak out, we are harming the movement. No, we are in fact harming our country because we're allowing a movement that is so alien to our culture. I mean, this is unthought of. And as in fact, Comrade Yamang has said, you know, the fact that we know many good people have been hounded out, but even those good people felt it was a betrayal of our movement if you went public with those things. We are saying no. The time to speak out is now, and not just to speak out, but in fact, in order to expose and to terminate that rot.
But what will the ANC do? People speak out. There's the Integrity Commission, which is not even regarded as a serious structure there.
No, but that is precisely why we are saying we need a National Consultative Conference by the ANC. We have tried to convene this conference under the auspices of the ANC. We've tried hard.
Yeah.
We've done it quietly, behind closed doors, pleaded with the leadership to recognize the harm that is coming to our movement, and through that, the harm they are inflicting on our country. We spoke about corruption with this leadership of our movement. We spoke about the marginalization of good people. We spoke about cronyism. We spoke about all aspects of this rot. And we pleaded with them for a very long time. And they have decided to just go on encouraging themselves in this wrongdoing. And that's why we decided to proceed, and we said, the invitation still stands. That's why when we had the messages of support, the only alliance partner who wasn't there, we kept that slot open for the ANC. Yeah. They didn't pitch up. But we knew everybody in that room, whether they were from the alliance or whatever, we were the real ANC.
Ms. Cheryl Carolus, thank you very much for your time, and we wish you good health.
Thank you very much, Mpho.
That was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the entire crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. I've